Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillahi alladhi abda'a al-aflaka wal-ardin was-salatu ala man kana nabiyyan wa adamu bayna al-ma'i wat-tin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'du fa'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون. آمنت بالله صدق الله مولانا العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاكرين والشاهدين والحمد لله رب العالمين. ببركة إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. درود شريف اللهم صل على سيدنا ونبينا وشفينا ومولانا محمد عبدك ورسولك ونبيك وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. Each and every one of you join in as-salatu was-salamu alayka ya sayyidi ya Rasulullah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya sayyidi ya rahmatan lil alamin. Raditu billahi rabba wa bil islami dina wa bi Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam rasulan wa nabiyya. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. After praising Allah Almighty Jalla wa Ala, Malik Kainat, Khalik Kul, Badi'us Samawati wal Ard, and sending infinite peace and salutations, durood and salawat upon the best of creation, the light of humanity, the purpose of our existence, Sayyidul Awwalina wal Akhirin, Imamul Anbiya wal Mursaleen, Huzur Jane Jana, Tajdar Medina, Rasul Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallama. Most honorable and respectable elders, brothers and sisters, lovable youngsters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I hope and pray that each and every one of you are in the best state of Iman and health and taking full maximum benefit from this noble and virtuous month of Ramadanul Kareem. Today is the second lecture in our Ramadan reminder series that we bring to you every year through Al-Wadud Academy in collaboration with Jami' Masjid Muhammadiyya Ghawsiyya in Ba'li. And as you will know and will be aware, this year's theme is centered around social ills. Last week, Muhtaram Chote Aziz, Imam Muhammad Asim, briefly spoke about the dangers of drugs and alcohol, an issue which is affecting many of our youth here in the United Kingdom. And inshallah Azza wa Jal, today I will, in a very short period of time, briefly touch upon the dangers of haram and the benefits of halal. The silsila will continue next week, inshallah Azza wa Jal. Imam Saab once again will touch upon one of the social ills in our communities, in society at large. And then 2 weeks from today, Faqir, inshallah, will touch upon illicit relationships and the importance of marriage and how the husband should be towards the wife and the wife towards the husband. I will take this opportunity to encourage those who are watching and listening to like the Al-Wadud Academy Facebook page, Instagram page, and share the good work that comes to you, not just in the month of Ramadan, but throughout the year. And we have a few plans in the pipeline, which we hope to see through after Ramadan, in continuing our mission to reform our youngsters in particular by way of education, reformation through education. Nevertheless, after this brief introduction, let's turn our attentions towards the topic at hand. As Muslims, in order to live a successful and peaceful life and have a prosperous hereafter, we must recognize and understand those things and actions which Allah Jalla wa'ala has allowed. Yani those things that the Almighty has made halal. And similarly, we must recognize and understand as Muslims those things that Allah has prohibited, yani made haram. And recognizing the difference between halal and haram is one of the key elements of the Sharia and from amongst the cornerstone of the Sharia. However, one of the growing concerns and harms of society is this lack of understanding in relation to the dangers of haram and the benefits of halal. Huzur Jane Jana Lajpal Nabi Kareem Rasul sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam prophesied about this. Just over 1400 years ago, he foretold and prophesied about the careless attitude that we as Muslims would have towards the income that we earn. And in turn, this careless attitude is one of the signs of the last hour. This particular narration, recorded in Sahih al-Bukhari, Tajdar Medina sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there will come a time when a person will not care where his or her wealth comes from, whether the source is halal or whether the source is haram. Sadaqta ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you spoke the truth. For we see and we are witnessing this very same state and this careless attitude now amongst many Muslims here in the United Kingdom and across the West. This is why it's absolutely fundamental in order to have peace and tranquility in this life and prosperity in the hereafter, that we have pehan, we recognize the difference between halal and haram. Or ye bhi yaad rakho that haram isn't just in earnings, in income, but also in consumption, relationships, and other aspect of our lives. But in this particular discussion, lecture, we will look at some of the evidences and proofs in light of Quran and Sunnah regarding the dangers of haram and the benefits of halal, and also towards the end provide some solutions to this ever-growing illness and problem. In light of the verses of the Quran, I had the sharaf and honor of doing tilawat of verse number 90 from Surah Al-Ma'idah, where Allah Almighty Jalla wa Ala addresses the believers. O believers, innamal khamru, that indeed khamar, wine, alcohol, and within this also are those things that lead to the senses being affected, yani the human's brain and senses, which are affected through any form of intoxication. And I allude to here all forms of drugs. So innamal khamru, number 2, wal maisiru. So Allah Almighty says, O believers, intoxicants and gambling, wal ansabu, and idols, wal azlamu, and dividing arrows, dividing by arrows, ridsum min amal shaitan. All of these things are filthy, and they are the works of the shaitan. Fajtanibuhu, therefore stay away from them, abhor them, la'allakum tuflihun, so that you may become successful. So that you may become successful. So 4 things have been mentioned here. All 4 in essence are considered to be haram. Khamar, maisir, ansab, and azlam. And not only are they haram, but further to that, the word that Allah Almighty uses here, ridsun, they are filthy, they are impure. Yes. And it's mentioned that this word ridsun is used 10 times in the Quran, and each time the meaning revolves around the above mentioned themes. So here in this verse of the Quran, Allah Almighty Jalla wa Ala clearly highlights those things which are haram and how we should refrain from them, despise them, abhor them, لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ, if we wish to live a peaceful and successful life, which is what I mentioned briefly a short while ago. Further to this, we have verses of the Quran in relation to the importance of understanding what is halal and reaping the rewards and the benefits of what is halal and staying away from that which is haram. Here we have Surah Al-Baqarah Sharif, verse number 168. In the 21st ruku, 3 verses that touch upon this. 3 verses here. Opening verse, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, kulu mimma fil ardi halalan tayyiba, that eat from the earth that which is lawful, that which is halal. And not only lawful and halal, but also tayyib, that which is clean. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ, do not follow the footsteps of the devil, the shaitan. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌ مُبِينٌ, Allah Almighty says that indeed he is your open enemy. Kulla dushman. And here, in light of the 2 verses that we looked at so far, Surah Al-Ma'idah, Surah number 5, verse number 90, Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah number 2, verse number 168, we see that after mentioning in the first example what is haram, and in the second verse here, encouraging us to only eat that which is halal and clean and pure. Straight after, in both verses, Allah Almighty says what? Stay away from the shaitan. Haram are from amongst the deeds and acts of the shaitan. And here, do not follow in the footsteps of the shaitan. Therefore, we come to this understanding and conclusion that if you engage in halal, eat that which is halal, do that which is halal, then this is the path and the way of Allah. And if you get involved in that which is prohibited, that which is haram, and that which is forbidden, then this is the way and the path of shaitan. And there are only two choices. As human beings and as believers in particular, there are only two paths. Either the way and the path of Allah or the way and the path of shaitan. Or ye bhi yaad rakho that if you choose the path of shaitan, on the day of Qiyamah, he will not claim responsibility. He'll move back and say that this is and was his choice. Yuwaswisu fi sudurin. All we did was whisper. All we did was waswasa in his mind. But he made the choices. She decided what to do. So when Quran and Sunnah have told us what is halal and what is haram, there is nothing then that can change or alter that. You can't make halal into haram, nor can you make haram into halal. And if you were to use two different terms here and expand upon this slightly, for halal we use the word haqq, and for haram we use the word batil. You can't make what is haqq into batil and batil into haqq. Like Allah Almighty says here, وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَلَا تَكْتُمُوا الْحَقَّ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. ये भी सूरत al-Baqarah शरीफ में आयत है. So verse number 42, and that do not mix the truth with falsity, which is again something common and a huge issue and concern amongst our youth, amongst our elders, in our muashara, in our communities. That sach ki chut kari honne hai, chut ki sach kari honne hai. Be that in our own daily examples, or be that in matters of creed and i'tiqad. So what does Allah Almighty say? وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَلَا تَكْتُمُوا الْحَقَّ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. That do not mix truth with falsity and do not deliberately conceal the truth. Pehchan rakho. Pehchan rakho. And the reality is that most of us know what Allah has made lawful and what He has forbidden, but we often follow our own whims and desires. In order to be successful, in order to be known, in order to be kamyab in the dunya, chasing wealth, chasing shuhrat, we will bend the rules, we'll make what is halal into haram, just to satisfy our own nafs. But we will have to answer for this on the day of Qiyamah from amongst the questions that we will be asked before we are even allowed to move on that day. 5 questions. From amongst them, 2 of them are related to the discussion that we're having, that Allah Almighty will ask on that day, how did you earn your wealth? And then further to that, how did you spend your wealth? Kya jawab de sa? What answer will we give? This is why the month of Ramadan is a month of reflection. Reflect and ponder on where we are going in life, what we are doing, and then the adverse effects of this, that if we as parents don't have this pehchan, then this will have an effect on our children as well. That if we are earning haram and we are consuming and eating haram, and then in turn we are feeding our children haram as well, then haram and haram, add the 2 together, equals what? Harami hai. The words might not be easily digested, but a simple equation, haram add haram equals harami. And then those people have an adverse effect on our communities. They become the drug dealers. They become those who are involved in gangs and knife crime and turf wars. This has a knock-on effect. This is why if we were to just slightly move ahead with the discussion, verses of the Quran are there, but here a very beautiful saying from amongst the awliyai kamilin, from amongst the awliyai kamilin, we have Hazrat Sahal ibn Abdullah at-Tustari, rahimahullah ta'ala. They said the person who consumes haram food, the person who consumes haram food, hand in hand with this verse that we're looking at, verse number 168 from Surah Al-Baqarah. The person who consumes haram food, the parts of his body that consume it have disobeyed Allah. Whether he likes it or not, and whether he knows it or whether he doesn't. And on the other hand, the one who consumes halal, his physical parts of the body, they obey Allah and they are dedicated to his good service. So this has a knock-on effect. You know, some of us, no, it has an effect on our spirituality, on our ruhaniyat. So these are things for us to reflect and ponder upon. Further to this, we have Surah Al-Baqarah Sharif, same ruku, verse number 173. Allah Almighty says what? إِنَّمَا حَرَّمَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةَ وَالدَّمَ وَلَحْمَ الْخِنْزِيرِ وَمَا أُهِلَّ بِهِ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ. Allah Jalla wa'ala has forbidden for you carrion, yani dead meat, blood and pork, and the meat of that upon which Allah's name has not been invoked at the time of slaughter. This verse is also included in this discussion here as well. And then the verse also relevant to the discussion here, and numerous and countless verses can be touched upon and shared with you. But to conclude this discussion in light of halal and haram in the Quran, we have Surah Al-Ma'idah again, verse number 88. Concluding all of this, Allah Almighty says what? وَكُلُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي أَنْتُمْ بِهِ مُؤْمِنُونَ. Verse number 88 from Surah Al-Ma'idah. And eat of that which is lawful and good, yani eat lawful and good things that Allah has given you, and fear Allah. Bas. The one who stays away from haram, know that that person has feared Allah. That person has taqwa in their hearts. The one who engages in halal and follows the path and the way of Allah, then know that Allah has favored that individual. Allah's mercy and karam nawazi is upon that person. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي أَنْتُمْ بِهِ مُؤْمِنُونَ. Fear Allah Almighty Jalla wa'ala, in whom you believe. Yes. So here, mentioned in tafsir, halal in Islamic Sharia refers to those things which have not been forbidden. Those things which have been forbidden, they are haram. Those things which haven't been forbidden, they are known as halal. Okay, and the discussion goes on here, but nevertheless, from this we understand and we can conclude very clearly that Allah Almighty Jalla wa'ala wants for you and me and desires for you and me to follow the path of the Sharia and to engage in that which is halal and to refrain from that which is haram. Allahu Akbar wa lillahi alhamd. To take this discussion slightly further, ye riwayat hai muttafaqun alayh, hadith sharif of Rasul Akram sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam in relation to this topic, halal और haram की पहचान, ये बुखारी शरीफ में है, मुस्लिम शरीफ में है. रावी सैयदना नुअमान इब्न बशीर, sahabi Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And Sayyidina Nu'man ibn Bashir, he was the first child born to the Ansar after the arrival of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam into the city of Al-Madinah al-Munawwarah. from amongst the Ansar. The first from amongst the Muhajirun was Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Zubair radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. Yani Sayyidina Zubair ibn Awwam from amongst the Ashra Mubashara, and Sayyidina Asma bint Siddiq, they were married. They had a son by the name of Abdullah. So Nu'man ibn Bashir, the first from amongst the Ansar born in Madinatul Munawwara after the Hijrah, after the migration, and Abdullah ibn Zubair, the first from amongst the Muhajirun. Sayyidina Nu'man ibn Bashir mentions, and he reports that Sami'tu Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says that I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam يقول say, إن الحلال بين وإن الحرام بين وبينهما أمور مشتبهات لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس. طويل riwayat hai. We'll break it down. Here, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said what? That which is halal is clear. Yani bayyinun. Jo kuch halal hai, it is known, it is clear, it is wazi. Or jo haram hai, wo bhi clear hai na. That is clear as well. Don't mix the two. Don't alternate between the two. Quran and Sunnah have made what is halal as halal and what is haram as haram. And then the Prophet ﷺ said there is a third category. First is halal, second is haram, third category is what? That which is in between halal and haram. Yani those things which are ambiguous, the things in which there is doubt, which many people do not know. So from this we understand that it is better to stay away from the doubtful matters. This is exactly what the Prophet ﷺ said. فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبُهَاتِ, that stay away from those things which are doubtful. Guard yourself from the doubtful matters which has secured a person. Stay away from these things. So today we have this. If we were to make this narration relevant to our daily lives, आजकल लोग Nando's भी halal समझने, McDonald's भी halal समझने, KFC भी जितने लिखा हुआ halal, कुल्लू halal, बिस्मिल्लाह व अला बरकतिल्लाह, ना कोई सवालात, ना कोई question, कुछ काकी नहीं. This is why tahqiq करो. Do your research. Make sure that the chicken that you're eating hasn't been stunned, but it has been slaughtered. Yes. These are questionable things. And if there is doubt, if it is questionable, then it's a simple equation, simple formula. Stay away from it. Stay away from it. Yes. So here, in light of this, and the narration continues, the last part of the narration is relevant here as well. As we were saying earlier, this has an adverse effect on our ruhaniyat, our spirituality. Towards the end, the Prophet ﷺ said, and many of you would have heard these words before, the ala wa inna fil jasadi mudghatun, or mudghatan. The Prophet ﷺ said that there is a piece of flesh in the body. إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله. If that piece of flesh, if that piece of flesh is sound, if it is sound, then know that the rest of the body is sound. But if that piece of flesh, وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ, if it is corrupt, then the rest of the body is corrupt. And what is this piece of flesh? أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبُ. The Prophet ﷺ said, no, certainly it is the heart. So this has an adverse effect upon our spirituality, upon the state of our hearts. Okay, so the scholars are of the view that the vast majority of acts fall into one of the first two categories, which we just mentioned, either halal, lawful, or haram, unlawful, and only a minority number of acts fall into the third category, that which is doubtful. Okay. Further to this, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in a narration that the heart will be exposed to fitan, trials again and again. And the heart which is influenced by fitna will have a black spot placed on it. And if the heart avoids the fitna, then there will be a white spot placed on it. So the heart is either a pure one or an impure heart. So this is why often I mention this in my bayanat, and that we need to focus less on the external and more on the internal. एक ही जुमला है, हाँ, जिसका दिल पाक और साफ है वही कामयाब है. The one whose heart is clean and pure, physically and spiritually, that is the person who will be successful on the day of Qiyamah. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. Allah Almighty says on the day of Qiyamah, your mal and daulat will not benefit you. Bivi bache aulad will not benefit you. The only thing that will benefit you and me is when we come on the day of judgment with a clean and pure heart. Jiska dil paak aur saaf hai, wahi kamyab hai. This is why it's important that these things, yani understanding what is halal and its benefits, and knowing the dangers of haram and staying away from them, has an adverse effect upon the state of our hearts and in turn upon our spirituality. Okay. So to move forward from this point, concluding what we've discussed thus far, in light of the verses of the Quran, 5 verses that we shared, and in light of this hadith sharif, we come to this understanding and conclusion that we as believers are urged to seek halal livelihood and to look for a lawful source of income, to eat and consume that which is halal, to have relationships which are halal, in order to achieve a blissful and peaceful life in this world and prosperity in the hereafter. This is what leads to an abundance of blessings and mercy from Allah Almighty. We look aksar कहने हैं दुआवां नहीं कबूल होनियां, इमाम सबरियां दुआवां सा मांगने दुआवां नहीं कबूल होनियां. अरे, if you are in that position where you are making du'as, but your du'as are not being answered, then look at how you are earning your money. Look at what you are eating and consuming. Look at your relationships and how they are, how you conduct yourself. Allahu Akbar wa lillahi alhamd. So not only are we urged to take the path of Allah, which is pursue that which is lawful, but also in clear terms, in light of Quran and Sunnah, we are encouraged to abstain from the haram way of life, which has been outlined in the Sharia. Okay. So it must be understood by all Muslims, those who are watching this, and I encourage you to share the link so others can benefit as well. It must be understood by all Muslims that Islam has enjoined its followers to earn and benefit from that which is halal. Sayyidina Anas bin Malik radiyallahu ta'ala who reports that Tajdar Madina Rasul Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, riwayat mentioned in Mu'jam al-Zawaid, the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, it is obligatory on every Muslim to seek what is halal. Bas, gal khatam. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said it. So follow in the footsteps of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, in the footsteps of the Sahaba Ikram, Ahlul Bayt Athhar, Awliyai Kamilin, Ulamai Rabbaniyin. Examples of Imam Abu Hanifa stand out and come to mind. How Imam Abu Hanifa, the great Imam, Tajir the na, trader, businessman, and he didn't let that and stop that, yani didn't prevent him from pursuing the path of knowledge. And that which is halal, and that which is halal. We've already mentioned the narration that a slave's feet will not move on the day of judgment until he is asked about 5 matters. From amongst them, how did he or she earn their wealth and how did they spend it? Like this, the Prophet ﷺ said, the person who seeks his livelihood from lawful sources, so that he could keep himself, his children, and family away from begging from people. He will be raised on the day of resurrection with the Anbiya and the truthful people. Anbiya and the truthful people. Yes. Allahu Akbar. This is why the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Qasibu Habibullah. Yes. Allah loves the one who earns rizq halal. Better nahi that you earn less, but it is halal rather than earning more and it is haram. It is better that you work in Tesco's, Asda, Aldi, or whatever it may be, and stay away from haram and the riff-raff in our communities, khas or drugs. Huge issue and problem which again was touched upon briefly last week, and it can only be reiterated and emphasized and again, that we as a father know that our son doesn't have a job, but he drives a 20,000 pound car. We as a mother know that our daughter doesn't have any source of income, but she has the latest handbag, drives the latest car, whatever it may be. Hamara kaam hai na, that as parents we ask our children, where did you get this money from? Where did you get this car from? Where did you get this clothing or this designer handbag from? Lekin nahi, apna nak bachane wasta hai, apni izzat bachane wasta hai. And the fact that our children flash the cash in front of us, we will remain silent. But you are affecting your children in this dunya and you are destroying the akhirah as well. Is par soch karo, is par fikr karo. Coming towards the conclusion of today's Mukhtasar Hazri, so much that can be mentioned here. So these narrations that we have touched upon make it obvious that if a believer tries to seek only what is lawful, then his status is raised high in the court of Allah Almighty. So earning haram, this is what will lead to zillat in the dunya and zillat in the akhirah. And earning what is halal leads to your honor being raised in the dunya and in the akhirah. Or ye bhi hai, both mas'ala in our communities. We know people are earning haram of licenses or istulaba. They are money laundering. They are drug dealers. They are involved in insurance scams. We know that they are earning haram. And then those very same people, they give money towards the masjid. Gal bari tatti lagsi lekin gal karni paisi. They give money towards the masjid or towards charity in the way of Allah. Understand and know that this money that they give in the way of Allah will not be accepted by Allah. This is based upon a hadith sharif of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Tajdar Medina, said that a slave of Allah who acquires haram wealth and then gives it to charity, gives from it to charity, it is not accepted from him. Ye riwayat mentioned in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, Musnadul Bazar as well. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that it is not accepted from him. And if he spends from it, he does not have any blessings, yani barakat in it. And if he leaves it behind, yani after he dies, then it will be a means of taking him into the fires of Jahannam. Verily, Allah does not wipe out an evil deed with an evil deed. Rather, He wipes out an evil deed with a good deed. Indeed, the repulsive does not wipe out the repulsive. So here in this hadith sharif, the seriousness of earning haram wealth is apparent. It is also obvious that by giving away the haram wealth in charity or to the houses of Allah, this is not something that absolves that person from sin, from the guna that he has done in order to earn that. Therefore, by destroying the haram item, selling it, donating it, or giving it away, does not resolve the problem. Yes. A lot more can be said upon this, but understand and know that we have to have pehchan of what is halal and what is haram. Hazrat Sari Sakati rahimahullah ta'ala, from amongst the Salaf Salihin, Hazrat Junaid Baghdadi ke Mamu Jan, They said that salvation lies in three things. Yeah, salvation lies in three things. Number one, consuming halal. Number two, perfection in taqwa. And number three, adhering to the sirat mustaqim. Bas. Najat and kamyabi lies in these three things. A lot more could have been said and mentioned. The effects of consuming haram, wealth and food, and also like this, the consequences of all these things, and some solutions. But the battery life on the camera is very low. And like this, your own battery life now at iftar time will be very low. So I will end upon this. The Sayyiduna Siddiq Akbar, Afdalul Bashar Ba'dal Anbiya bit Tahqiq, Yar Ghar, Yar Mazar, Khalifa Awwal Bila Fasal. It is mentioned and recorded that he had a slave. मेरी आखिरी गुफ्तगू, आखिरी बात, और इस पर गल समेटने आ. They had a ghulam, a slave, and once the slave brought some food for Afdalul Bashar Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Siddiq Akbar took a morsel from that food that the ghulam brought and placed it in their mouth. Later, Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he discovered that the food was haram. He discovered that the food was haram. The slave told him that he used to work as a foreteller, a fortune teller, and as a seer in the days of Jahiliyyah, and that he had purchased the food from that income. Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, when he heard this, he said to him that you have destroyed me. You have destroyed me. Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq wanted to put his hands, blessed hands, into his blessed mouth and vomit out the food, but he could not. Some people told him that he might vomit easily if he took water. So he asked for water. Water came to him. He kept on drinking, and then he vomited the food until he had emptied all of the food from his blessed stomach. And he could not vomit no more. Some onlookers and commentators on this have said, some onlookers, those who are watching this, they said, why are you suffering so much for a small morsel of food? Afdalul Bashar Ba'dal Anbiya replied and said, Radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that I will take out this morsel from my stomach, even if at the cost of endangering my life. For indeed I have heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that the body grown with a haram food, deserves to be in the fires of Jahannam. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala allows to understand the benefits of earning, eating, and living a life which is lawful and halal for us. And Allah Almighty allows to understand the dangers of what is haram and unlawful for us. Inshallah Azza wa Jal, this silsila will continue until the next time. Fi amanillahi wa rasulihi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.